Welcome to episode number 10 of our Therapeutic Art Prompts. This one goes along with the podcast, Why You Aren't Making Progress and What to Do About It. And for this one, I wanted to do the questions first because I think it was important to think about these things before we do the art prompt, and you'll see why in just a second. So I'm going to go over the questions first. So number one is, where in my life am I trying to make changes by action only? So I talked about that in the podcast, that when I was really trying to get in better shape, I was doing the actions, working out, like trying to eat well, but I was still believing things like I'm not athletic, or I'm not the kind of person that does that, or that's vain, or whatever, those thoughts really aren't supportive of eating well and exercising. So the mistake I was making is that I tried to work on the actions and not work on the thoughts and feelings that drive those actions, right? You have to believe something different in order to make those actions that you want to take a lot easier. So just think about in your life an area that you might be doing that, and hang on to that thought for just a second because we'll come back to it in the art prompt. Number two is, what thought and feeling would help drive that action? So for me, if I want to be exercising and eating well, what do I need to believe about myself, about the process, that will make this a lot easier? And I shared this in the podcast, but one of the main thoughts for me is, I'm a woman that takes really good care of myself. I've been working the last few years to really identify with that and, just believe and become that kind of person. Also, it's just part of my routine. I take a shower every day. I take my kids to school every day, no matter how much I want to or not. I just do it. And exercising is part of that. It's just like part of the routine during my day. So those thoughts and feelings are much more helpful in driving the action that I want to take. And then number three is, what latter thoughts would help me get to that thought? So if you can't quite get to the thought that you came up with, sometimes it's hard to make the leap, right? Like, you can't just, it's not so easy sometimes to just like slap a thought on there that, would make you feel better, because you just don't actually believe it. So the tool that I want to use and that we're going to use for the art prompt is ladder thoughts. So I talked about this in the podcast. So you put your thought that you're believing now, that's kind of holding you back, at the bottom, and then you put your goal thought at the top. And you can make a ladder however you want. You can do steps, you can do a ladder just like straight on. Mine's kind of at an angle leaning against this wall, however you want. And then in between, like, think of what is the next step up. So what thought is a little better than the one that I'm having, that I can believe, but it also feels better. So, and one thing that I think is really helpful is, if you're having a hard time coming up with something to believe, it's been helpful to me to put the words "it's possible" in front of it. So this one I did actually on money beliefs. So for me, my bottom thought is, it takes time and effort to make money. And then the next one up is, it's possible to make $100,000 in a year. I can believe that because I know other coaches who do that. And then the step up from that is, I can make $100,000 a year. The step up from that is, then I can exponentially increase my income. The next step up is, I can make wise choices with my money and business. And then I can create wealth for myself. So, yeah, that was mine. So just taking like little incremental steps until you get to like the thought that really would, you know, drive the action that you want to get to. I think this is really important because, you know, there's this idea that we can fake it till we make it, and in a way that is true, but if you don't change your thoughts and feelings and you're only trying to do the action, it's really difficult. So, but sometimes when we're doing that action, like if I'm exercising, you know, every day, even if I am still believing some old thoughts, that gives me evidence, right, for my new thoughts. So it is a cycle and it can help, but just make sure you're doing both. You're working on the action, whatever your goal is, and also working on the thoughts and feelings that drive that. Yeah, so that's all for today. Show me your art prompts. I love to see them. Okay, take care.